So Diamond is looking at ways to improve its liquidity, and it's decided to sell some of its trade receivables. Okay, and it says in the requirement, if they decide to go ahead with the debt factoring, explain the financial reporting principles involved and how that affects the financial statements. So obviously, if you're going to have a factor, you're going to sell your debtors, and the question is always, well, have I actually sold them or not? So it's what we call the derecognition rules, derecognising the debtor, the receivable from your accounts. So when can I do this? When there's no further right to cash, when the risks and rewards have been substantially transferred, and no further control. That's it, that's the basic of your knowledge. You write that down in full sentences, and then you say, right, I'm going to apply these rules now to the scenario. So here's the first scenario. They could sell 40 million receivables to a factor, and they'd get 80% in full and final settlement. The factoring is non-recourse. So I'd stop there. Non-recourse means they can't come back to you, can they? So if it's non-recourse, have we got rid of all of the risks? Yes, we have. Do we have any further right to cash? No, we don't. And so therefore, that would mean that you can derecognise. And this is how I do it, one step at a time, obviously in full sentences though. Except that Diamond has guaranteed it will pay the factor a further 9% of each receivable not recovered within the first 9 months. So we've got this 9% recourse if it's within 6 months. So therefore we do have some risks of non-payment. The question is though, are those risks substantial enough to not derecognise it? Okay, so we're looking at, we want to have substantially transferred the risks in order for us to derecognise it. Diamond believes that its customers represent a low credit risk. Put that in. These are just simple marks, aren't they? If they're a low credit risk, then how much of a risk is that? Then therefore it can't be substantial, therefore you can derecognise. Yeah, because it's not a substantial risk that you're keeping. It also says the probability of default is very low. Default probability low, same thing then. Not substantial risk, therefore can derecognise. And then finally he says the fair value of the guarantee is estimated to be 50,000. So you say, right, this 50,000, it's not, I'm not going to get rid of the debtors, so that 50,000 has to be a potential financial liability. Now let's go on and have a look at scenario 2, where the factor advances 20% of the 40 million, which is 8 million. Further amounts will become payable but are subject to an imputed interest charge so that we receive progressively less the longer it takes. The factor has full recourse. Okay, so first thing I'd say, it's with recourse, and so therefore risks are kept, and so therefore we cannot derecognise because we're keeping the risks. Now also it says that those who pay slower, the slow payment, that means more of an interest charge. So the risk of slow payment is kept, and so therefore we cannot derecognise. Okay, simple as that really. Let's keep going. For a 6-month period, after which we have Diamond has no further obligations and no rights to receive any further payments. But at the moment then, we do have right to receive cash at the moment. So we cannot derecognise. And so therefore, how do we treat this 8 million? It's not debit, cash, credit debtors, it's credit liability. And then that liability goes down as the debtors pay. Okay, so as the debtors pay, it's debit my liability, reduce my liability as the debtors pay, credit the receivables which I've kept in full on my balance sheet, and if there's any non-payers, any bad debts, I would debit the income statement, credit receivables. And then after 6 months, it says after 6 months, then that's it. We've got no further obligations. And so after 6 months, the debtors aren't ours anymore. So any balance on the debtors, you would then credit receivables, debit income statement with them. Okay, but look at all that. All those points, they would all be in full sentences. 9 marks. Notice how I did it. I went through, look at the red colouring in there. That's every line that I went through. I used every line. I said something sensible. This was my only knowledge bit that I needed. And most of you could have guessed that knowledge bit, I think, anyway.